Have you ever asked yourself what it really means for Lionel Messi to step onto an African stadium wearing the Argentine national team jersey? I'm not talking about just another match, nor about a friendly tour that gets lost in the routine of the calendar, but about a gesture that seems small but actually shakes the history of world football. Because when the greatest of all time arrives in a continent that for decades was seen as a source of talent, but rarely as a stage for great achievements, the unavoidable question is, what message is being sent to the football planet? The visit of the Escaloneta with Messi on African soil is not just a sporting event. It is a symbol, a reminder that football has no borders and that the dreams of the kids who play in the streets of Dakar, in the neighborhoods of Abidjan, or in the fields of Yaoundé can have a real mirror in front of their eyes. Samuel Eto'o said it with the force of someone who understands the weight of words. This day is not ordinary, it is historic, and it will remain in the memory of entire generations. And of course, one might think this is an exaggeration, but isn't football precisely a sport that lives off those exaggerations that end up becoming emotional truths? In a continent that has always been labeled as an exporter of stars, seeing Messi play there is as if the script were flipped. Africa not only produces talent, it also deserves to receive it, enjoy it, celebrate it. It is recognition of its greatness, applause for its history, and an invitation for the future to be written with more matches of this caliber. And here comes football's irony. For years we heard that the great stages were in Europe, that the finals were played at Wembley, at the Bernabeu, or at the Maracana. But now the echo of African chants reminds us that passion does not understand geography. If we think about it calmly, this trip is also a cultural bridge. Messi, who so many times has been a symbol of football's globalization, now becomes a visitor who legitimizes an entire continent. What African child is not going to remember that the best in the world played on their land? What young person dreaming of becoming a striker won't feel that their dreams now have a shorter path toward reality? Eto'o summed it up with hope. Messi's arrival ignites hope and shows that dreams have no limits. And here is where the story gets deeper. Because we are not only talking about a match, we are talking about identity, respect, the possibility that Africa stops being seen only as a talent factory and begins to be seen as a stage. That is the real victory, beyond the score on the board. It is as if football reminded us that greatness is not measured only in titles, but in the places where hope is planted. What would happen if every continent had the opportunity to receive the best players on its own soil? Wouldn't that be the real permanent World Cup, the one played in every corner of the planet? Messi's visit opens that door and forces us to think about a fairer, more inclusive, more universal football. And as we tell it, emotion mixes with reflection. Because yes, Messi is already a legend, but every step he takes outside the big European stadiums is a reminder that his impact goes far beyond goals. It is a political, cultural, and social message disguised as a friendly match. And that's where the magic lies. What seems like a simple game becomes a chapter in football history. So the question that floats in the air is unavoidable. What does it mean to you that Messi played in Africa? Do you see it as a symbolic gesture, as a change of paradigm, or as an opportunity for the continent to establish itself as a stage for major events? Doesn't it seem curious how a simple match can become a mirror of what football means in the lives of millions? What happened with Messi's and the national team's arrival in Africa is not an isolated chapter. It is a reminder that football is much more than goals and results. It is a popular language that, when spoken on a different stage, acquires symbolic power that transcends the pitch. And here is the fascinating part. What for some was just a visit, for others was confirmation that dreams have no borders. Messi's presence on African soil is a gesture that breaks with the usual logic of global football. For decades, Africa was seen as a talent factory, a place that exported stars but rarely hosted the great names. Now, with Messi playing there, a different door opens, the door of legitimacy, equality, hope. It is as if football were saying out loud that every corner of the planet deserves to be a stage for greatness. And that idea, even if it seems obvious, had never been so tangible. The interesting thing is that this event isn't measured in statistics or records, but in emotions. What African child is not going to remember that the best in the world played on their land? What young person dreaming of becoming a footballer won't feel that their aspirations now have a closer path? That spark of hope is the true legacy of this match. Eto'o expressed it clearly. This is not an ordinary day. It is a historic day. And when someone who knows the weight of history says that, you understand that it isn't exaggeration. It's emotional truth. If we think about it in perspective, this moment also forces us to reflect on Africa's place on the football map, not only as a producer of stars, but as a worthy stage to receive them. It is a shift in narrative that can shape the future, one where the best don't just go to find talent, but also bring their greatness there. And again, football's irony appears. For years, we heard that the great matches were played in Europe or South America, but now the echo of African chants reminds us that passion doesn't care about geography. The reflection becomes even deeper when we consider what this means for Messi. He, who is already a legend, continues writing chapters that go beyond trophies. Every step he takes outside the big European stadiums is a reminder that his impact transcends sports. It is a cultural, social, and political message disguised as a friendly match. And that's where the magic lies. What seems like a simple meeting becomes a chapter in football history. So, what happened leaves us with a clear lesson. Football is not just spectacle. It is also recognition, respect, and hope. Messi's visit to Africa reminds us that greatness is measured in the places where hope is planted. And the question that remains floating is inevitable. What does it mean to you that Messi played in Africa? Do you see it as a symbolic gesture, as a paradigm shift, or as an opportunity for the continent to establish itself as a stage for major events? The conclusion about what happened with Messi in Africa cannot be reduced to a headline or a photo, because what was really experienced was a change in the global football narrative. For years, the African continent was seen as an endless source of talent, a place where stars were born and then shined in Europe, but rarely as a stage capable of receiving the best on its own soil. Messi's arrival breaks that logic and leaves a message that goes beyond the result of a match. Africa doesn't only produce dreams, it also deserves to see them fulfilled in its stadiums. This event forces us to think about football as a universal language that doesn't distinguish borders or hierarchies. Messi playing there means that the children kicking a ball in the streets of Dakar or the fields of Yaoundé can feel that the world is watching, that their passion has a legitimate place in history. It is a gesture that ignites hope, and that, as Eto'o said, will remain in the memory of generations. And if we analyze it calmly, it is also a reminder that greatness is not measured only in titles, but in the places where hope is planted. The final reflection is clear. What seems like a friendly match becomes a symbolic act that dignifies an entire continent. Messi, with his mere presence, shows that dreams know no limits, and that football can be a bridge between cultures, identities, and hopes. And this is the most powerful part: that a match becomes history, that a gesture becomes legacy, and that an entire continent feels that its place on the football map is more alive than ever. Leave your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the channel, because here we continue telling stories that make football something much bigger than 90 minutes.